This is going to be the Peanuts Envy. We're going to tie this in a smaller version. Normally he ties these in a bigger hook. I don't need monster hooks here in Kentucky. So what we're going to be tying on tonight, the rear hook is going to be a 1280 and a size 6. It's a Daiichi. And the front hook, we're going to be running a size 4 Umpqua U 301. Thread that we're tying on today, this is an Ultra Thread 140 in dark olive. For our tailing materials and stuff, we're going to be using olive chickaboo. This is a real fine marabou part of the bird. For our other set of hackles, we're going to be using strung rooster in dark olive as well. For our bead tonight, we're going to be using a Rivers Wild 4.8 millimeter. That'll be on our front hook. For our legs, we're going to be using dark green barred rubber stretch legs. For our wire, we're going to be using Chartreuse Ultra Wire in bright. We'll be using just a little bitty pinch of Pearl Flash. Super easy fly to tie, very productive. You can tie this all the way up in a 1-2 combo, as in aught. You don't have to. What I got started in the back, we're going to start with the size 6. This is the 1280. It's actually a dry fly hook, but it'll work out good. We're going to start threading in the back. Then we're going to start with our chickaboo. I tie this in a couple different colors here in Kentucky. I tie this in sand. I tie it in grizzly, natural. Very, very productive fly. I will fish this quite a bit here in Kentucky. I fish a lot down in Georgia too. We're going to start with this chickaboo. As you can see, this chickaboo is it's real wavy. Super good part of the fly. You got to go and dig through them and get it right. We're going to wet that stuff. Length of the tail is going to be the hook shank. We're going to catch that in the back. We're going to set it on top. Make sure we like where that's sitting. We're going to pinch that down your side of the hook toward away from yourself if you're tying, towards you if you're watching me. I'm going to run that back. We're going to come in with just a little bit of this Sparkle Pearl. We don't need a whole lot of this stuff. It's just enough to give it some flash in the back. It ain't even got to be magical. But it does need to be offset. You don't want this stuff laying straight. So we're going to come in the length of the tail. Pinch and loop. Tie a few up. We're going to fold that over. I got about 6 fibers there. We're going to tie those right in on the top. We're going to come in. We're going to rake cut that out so none of them are even. Don't worry about that. We're going to put one more piece across the top of that chickaboo to cover that part of the tail up. Hopefully you guys been doing pretty good and nobody's been too sick. It's kind of crazy for sure. We've just been tying a whole bunch of flies. We ain't been doing a lot of real work. Now this one we're going to tie right across the top. This is similar to your woolly boogers and stuff like that. It's really similar to the Dungeon. The big difference is this one's going to have an actual, well, what I tied in is a bead head. That's at 4.8 millimeter in gold. A lot of people tie that with a cone head. I don't like the cone heads. Something about them I don't care for, so I just don't fish them. Now we got that tied in. We got your tail sections tied in. Got that chickaboo and that flash. Now we're going to come in, take a couple of loops and secure our rib. We're going to run that all the way back to the rear, tying that rib in on the side, still maintaining a nice profile on that body. Now we're going to come in with our dark green chenille. That's what we're going to use to make up the body, along with saddle hackle. I'm going kind of fast tonight. This is kind of a long fly. Normally, if you slow down and tie this, it'll take just a little while. We're gonna strip that down to the cotton core. That way we got a good solid tie-in point. Like I said in the beginning of this video, this is a Kelly Galloup pattern. If y'all don't know who Kelly Galloup is, y'all need to go check him out. His fly tying channel is The Slide In. I've been fishing this fly for a couple years now. I really enjoy it. We're gonna make one full loop. We're gonna pinch all that tail material down, give it a nice snug pull. We're gonna do 2-3 loops, same thing, snug and pull. All that's gonna do is keep your body from rotating around once you start tying the rest of your stuff in. You don't want that body rolling on those fish. That's gonna loosen up all your materials. It's gonna get away from you. Come in, trim that out nice and neat. We're gonna come in with our saddle. We'll pick one that's gonna match the back. That's gonna mimic small sculpin, so, well, that's what I think it does anyway. So we don't wanna get too crazy. We wanna measure that out. Our front one on our size 4 will be a little bit bigger, but not much. We'll come in, clamp that down so it's nice and flat. You got a good tie-in point. One in the front, 2 in the front, 1 in the rear, 2 in the rear. Pull tight, tighten it down. Now we're gonna make one full loop. Now, nice spiral turns. Control your work. All the way to the rear. We're gonna grab our rib, catch that in. We're gonna go through there real fast so we don't trap too many fibers. Usually the slower you go, the worse it is. We'll catch that in, pull it up, pull it in the front, pull everything to the back. Good pinch and pull. Break that out, break your tips out. Take a look at it, make sure it looks pretty good. Don't look too bad. This is the back half. This is gonna be an articulated fly, so you're gonna be tying 2 of these. If you guys get bored with it, it's just a repeat up in the front, so go ahead and skip ahead. But this is where we're gonna put our 2 back wings in. Come in with another piece of chickaboo. We're gonna tie that face up. Now with this chickaboo, you're gonna come in, tie thirds. So it's good and wet. Just like if it was in the water. You're gonna come in, lay that right across the top. You're gonna measure that out. You wanna come about 1/3 to 1/2 into that rear wing. Pinch and loop, look at it. Tighten it up. We're gonna come in and trim this out. We're gonna do 2 of these, and then we're gonna do the jump. Then we're gonna cover up our attach. A couple more pieces. I'm gonna come in and get rid of some of this so I can see what I'm doing with the stem. I'm gonna come in and wet this one. That's what it's gonna look like when it's wet, so it'll be easier to control if you wet this stuff. What I'm wetting it with, I got a sponge that I keep on the side of my table, and it's an old stud box from my Sim studs that I put on my boots. I just cut it in a circle. Really good trick. I also got that one from Kelly. He's a super smart man. See, just a little clear box. I hadn't put water in that. I just squirted it everywhere. I hadn't put water in that in probably 3 or 4 weeks, but it's still really wet. As long as you keep it closed, it won't dry up. Now in the back, what we're gonna come in, we're gonna tie in a set of legs, singular. We're gonna pull off 1 strand. You can put in 2, but if you put 2 in the back, you're gonna have to put 2 or 3 in the front. So I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna measure this out. I'm gonna lay it right across the side there. We're gonna come out about to the end of the flash there. We're gonna soft loop it, take a look at it, make sure it stays. Lock it in. We're gonna bring this up. We're gonna stretch it. Make sure they're a nice even tie-in point. This is a really effective fly. I fish this for trout, I fish it for bass. Our smaller fish here will even eat this. I've caught pretty large warmouth on it. They're greedy fish. All right, so this is the back half of Peanuts Envy. So let's dry this stuff out and take a look at these wings. When you're done with it, if you just kind of pull it, you can see how it kind of leans over. If you tie these wings in sideways, it tends to track sideways in the water, so you don't really want to do that. Now you can come in, you can super glue this down, you can hit it with head cement, Sally Hansen's, whatever you normally use. What I'm using tonight, this is Loon Flow Resin, of course with the Loon lot to set it. And that is the back half of Peanuts Envy. I'll break that loose. Now we're gonna set in our front hook. This is the Umpqua U301. This is a size 4. It's 3X long and 2X hard, or correction, 1X hard. And it also has that 4.8 millimeter gold bead in the front. This is black bead, or I'm sorry, brass and gold. You don't have to use this bead. You can use a cone head. I found that here in Kentucky, the trout like the bead a little bit better than the dark cone. Your call. You're the tire. You can do what you want. Now for our attachment in the back, what we're using today, this is 45-pound backing. Super duper pliable. That's why I use the backing. I don't need to use a surf line or nothing like that on this. This ain't a saltwater fly. I'm not going to be catching sharks on it. But it'll definitely still be able to take good fish. So I'm going to come in. I'm going to start this about a quarter of the way down. This is where I'm going to come in. I'm going to catch in my, this is my backing. We're going to catch that in right on the top. Take a peek at it, wrap the end down. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put just a little bit of super glue, add a little bit of zap to it. Not a whole lot, it won't take much. We're gonna add that to it. This will just help give you a little peace of mind about it pulling out. We're gonna still continue to catch that right across the top. We're gonna work that down to the gouge of the hook, which is right there. You guys can see that. Now you can use this beadless. I put one bead in it. One, it makes a little popping noise when it hits the back of the hook. And two, sometimes it helps with foul hooking itself. This is a Rivers Wild bead. This is a 1 ounce, or I'm sorry, 1 ounce. It's a 1/8 or a 3.2 millimeter in green, metallic. We're gonna come in. We're gonna put the open end of the bead toward the hook. That way when the hook eye comes up and marries in, we don't get too far up on the hook and it makes our tail shoot straight up to the sky. Once that's in, we're gonna come in with our second part. We're gonna thread our second part with our backing. We're gonna run it back through a second time. Now if you use a smaller bead in the back, this can be tricky, which this one's gonna be just because we're doing a video. I'm gonna come in and cut that on an angle. You guys can see that. That'll make leading it through the bead a little bit easier. There we go. Oop. I'm gonna put a little spit to it. Get it wet. One more time. Whoop. When that happens, it's gonna fray out. If it frays out, just come in, clip those bad ends off, maybe get a steeper angle so it makes feeding it through there a little bit easier. There we go. Just like that. Now, the reason I like to use this backing is because it's cotton and it'll lay flat. So I'm going to run that almost up to my bead. So it's got plenty of room to wiggle. We're going to catch that in. We'll look at it. Work with it a little bit. There we go. Nope. See, if you get crazy with it, it'll jerk it forward. It ain't ready yet. There we go. Tighten it in. We're going to come in, hit it with the Gorilla one more time. Not a whole lot. Won't take much. As long as we keep that right across the top of the hook shank, we're going to tie across our original tying point for that. You can fold it back on itself, but I've never had one of these unfurl here in Kentucky, so I really don't worry about it. The fish don't get monster huge. Now, if I was fishing out in Idaho, or if I was tying a bigger fly for muskie or pike here, I would definitely use Surflon and glue both ways, up and down. But this is just going to be for chasing smallmouth and trout, so we don't really worry about it here. Let's get this back over. Well, you got full view of the bird as it's trying to fly away. Pew. All right, so now what we're gonna do, we're gonna come in, we're gonna put a skirt on both sides of that bead. It's gonna kind of try to hide that pivot point. With that, we're gonna come in with another piece of Chickaboo. You'll get this stuff in a full pack, but it won't all be good. You gotta find feathers that are pretty much uniform all the way up, because these things will be curving left and right, and this stuff will go everywhere. Come in, preen this stuff down just a little bit. And just like before, coming in a third to a half into that rear piece. This is just enough to cover that tie-in point. That's all we're doing. It's a little bit of camouflage here. I'm gonna clip that off, length of the body or thereabouts. Close that in. Then we're gonna come in with our wire one more time. Like I said, this is a repeat of the rear half of the fly. Hopefully everybody likes this fly. We're getting into the part of the season where the big fish start coming out and we start throwing the meat. So once we start throwing bigger flies, we're gonna start tying a bigger one. But here where I'm at, it's not like I'm on the Madison. I'm not on the Rogue or nothing like that, so I don't really have to worry about monster trout or steelies. But I will still tie them for people who want them. All right, got the rib tied in. We're gonna come in one more time with our dark green chenille. Pull the ends out, expose that cotton core, catch it in. Pull and set. Pull and set every 2 to 3 turns. Pull and set all the way up into your cone or your bead. Catch that in on the top, front, back, front. Pull. Too easy. Come in, clean that out. Now, what I like to do here is back off a couple turns. That's going to leave me a space. You can't really see it in this chenille. There's going to be a space there where I can tie in my front part of my wing, which is going to come all the way back into this, and it'll give me a place to tie in my front piece of hackle. Now this one's going to be the front hackle, so we want it to be a little bit fatter, give this thing some shoulder. So we're going to measure it just a little bit bigger. Now we're going to catch it across the bottom, one in the front, one in the back, one in the front, one in the back. Give it some pressure. What that'll do when you start to wrap this, that'll let this thing turn unimpeded and right into your spiral wraps to the rear. I tend to flick my feathers with my fingers just to keep them open. I don't want to trap anything back there. We're going to come in with a rib. And speaking of trap, we're going to go through our fibers quickly. So we don't want to stick anything down to the hook. Tied in. Now you can see that gap starting to form where I'm going to tie that in. I'm going to break out our leftover. Pull toward yourself. Helicopter that out. Now we're almost there. Now we're going to come in with our front pieces of Chickaboo. I tend to leave these a little bit drier. That way I can measure a little bit better. We want to make sure those are right in on the top. Pull. Take a look one more time. That should be almost to the tips of your skirt that you're using to tie or to hide that tie-in point. Once those are there, set them. And come in one more time. If you've got curved feathers that you're trying to use that are going right or left, tie those in always on the bottom. We're going to come in right on top of that one. One more time. Take a look at it before you set it. Pull tight. Set. One more time. So we went 2 in the rear, 1 for the skirt, and we're going to do 3 up front. It's just going to give it a whole lot of motion in the water. Measure that one in exactly the same as the bottom 2. Soft wrap it. Look at it. Get it right on the top where you want it. Hold, pull. A couple solid wraps. We're going to fold that stuff back. Almost done. I know it's a long fly. It's kind of hard to pay attention when the flies take this long, but it is worth it. Now we're going to come in with 2 strands of our olive leg. Good rule of thumb, like Kelly does on his stuff, is if you run 1 in the back, you run 2 in the front. If you run 3, you run 2 in the rear. This is a smaller version, so I'm just going to be tying this in 1, 2. Come in, clean those out. Going to measure down the length of the fly, almost to the rear of those hackles. I'm going to catch that in. Pull them up, take a look at them. If those are where you like them, you're going to take your other 2 sets, pull it right over 90 degrees. Now you got to put some stretch on it, but if you tie that in right across the top, trim those legs off, ends up being pretty good. So now here you can do one of 2 things. You can put a dubbing collar in here, or you can come in and put a small piece of Chickaboo on there and wrap it as a collar. So I'm going to do the collar. I don't know if Kelly does that part or not. I like the way that looks. I want to maintain that flow of the fly. I don't need a whole lot, so I'm going to take a little small piece of Chickaboo. This is a good place to get rid of those small stems that are kind of crooked or not completely perfect. I'll catch that in on its side. I like the way that looks. Don't rush your head, don't rush your fly. Tie that in on the side there. Hopefully you guys enjoy this fly. Like, share, and subscribe. Go check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you guys got anything you want to see, like always, leave it in the comments below. I'm going to come in with my hackle plier and catch that in. I'm going to pull everything to the rear. I'm going to get probably 2 turns out of it. Yep. Like, share, and subscribe. Show this to your friends. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you tie this up, it'll definitely take some fish for you. And we'll see you guys on the next one. We'll come in a couple half hitches. We're gonna hit this with our head cement here. come in and tease this out after it gets dry. You can see what your flies gonna do. This is, like I said, this is the Peanuts Envy. I've taken lots of fish on this all across the country. It's one of my better articulated flies that I like to fish. So give it a try. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Like I said, like, share, and subscribe. Show us to your friends. Come check us on Facebook. We do a lot of stuff over there with our giveaways. And until next time, hopefully it's not so long. I know it was a week in between posts this week, but hopefully you guys enjoy it. And next time we won't do a 25-minute fly. Y'all have a good night. Have a good weekend. Y'all stay safe out there and keep tying.